All right, so there is a brand new sport available to us right here in Northwest Ohio, and that sport is mountain biking. And when you think mountain biking, one name comes to mind. That's Don DeBartolomeo of the Right Direction and SpokeLife Cycles. Let's go talk to him and see if he can't kill me today. So, Don, you have a pretty heavy background in biking. So can you tell me a little about what that is?
You know, in the early 80s, I got my roots in BMX racing. And I raced BMX until I had turned pro in mid-80s. And that had kind of transformed from BMX. As that started to fade out, our sponsor said, hey, why don't you try some mountain biking? So as we move into the early 90s, started racing mountain biking. I would compete in an event called Trials, which is like obstacle riding, and then dual slalom. And early 90s, I turned pro, and then in 1996, I won the US Championships in the Pro Trials and then was able to go to Atlanta to do exhibition events in the Olympics, as well as opening and closing ceremonies. And that's what kind of brought me back to this area. I grew up east of Cleveland. So that's what brought me back here to start a cycling team at BGSU, and we started doing stuff with local shops, and eventually it's how we ended up starting our nonprofit program that works with kids.
So what you're saying is you're super legit.
Exactly, that's exactly it.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. So some of the key things when you're riding, if you really want to start riding trails like we have here at the Metro Parks Oak Opening Trails, you want a bike that's capable. So you may see bikes that, are at a department store and you're like, oh man, why isn't that $250 or $300 bike good? It looks just like this one. But by the time you look at how it's been built and the components are on it, you quickly realize as you take it off-road, that bike is not going to hold up as well as a bike you're going to get in the bike shop. But then when you step into a bike shop, you're also going to have recreational bikes that may be between $500 and $600, $700. So once you get past the bicycle, a helmet is a must-have. So you're going to want a good helmet, something a little bit lighter, something more ventilated. Don't cheap out on your helmet, because your helmet is on your head more than your bike is on your body. So a helmet is a good thing to have. Obviously, some way to hydrate yourself is amazing. So whether you have a bottle in the cage on your bike or a hydration pack, that's a must. Sometimes you want to go through the trail and having a trail tool, so in case an emergency happens and I have to take the front wheel off, or I have to make an adjustment, or something gets loose, a multi-tool. It's kind of like a Swiss Army tool, multiple tools, that's a great thing. Spare tube. Spare tube is a must. And then having some type of way to inflate that tube, whether it be a CO2 cartridge or a pump. Those are like your top items for on the trail. That pretty much makes you hands-free while you're out there. You don't need to call anyone on your phone to come bail you off. You get a flat, you can go out and take care of it yourself. So one of the biggest things you'll see, and this has to do as much for conservation as it has to for trail maintenance, but when you go through any mountain bike trail, you'll notice that certain days it's a certain loop. And certain days through a trail you'll be going, you go in maybe the red trail, and every turn is to the left. So every day, no matter where you go, in that 3-day or 4-day span, it's a left-hand turn. The next set, 3 days later, you're going the right turn all the way around. So most trails are marked. If you pay attention to the signage at the front of most trails as you go in, you can kind of see the lay of the land. That's really good. If you come up on riders that are a little bit slower than you on the trail, you can always say on your left, because you're passing on their left. That's really good etiquette, and that kind of follows over to road cycling as well. But other than that, if you come across muddy spots in the trail you're riding, when it's too muddy, obviously that's a no-no. But if you come across trail spots, wet spots, it's actually better to ride straight through it than to keep making that area wider, wider, wider. So you always try to be as minimalist as you can. They always used to say, hey, leave no trace, and that means leave no footprints. You're trying to go through this and make the most minimalist mark ever. And as a bicyclist, when you go through here, you make less of a footprint on that bike because it's distributing your weight than you do walking. So we've been doing this for a couple years now. We started a camp, since we have this new trail, we had a lot of people that were coming up and having issues with the obstacles, or they were feeling intimidated. And like anything else, when it's new, you know what? You can be intimidated, and that's easy. Everything for the first time is hard, right? Till you conquer it. So we said, hey, you know what? Being the shop that we are and having the program that we do, we want to make cycling as enjoyable as we can. So we hooked up with the Metro Parks, and we came up with a class that's called Mountain Biking 101. I used to teach this like years ago to the pros, and it's actually the basic fundamentals that you need, but it is such a foundation for good trail riding that it keeps your bike in better shape and it keeps you from getting hurt. So they're just simple fundamentals of cycling, and we do it through the Metro Parks. The classes are typically the first Wednesday and Saturday of every month, And you can go online, if you go to Toledo Metro Parks page, it's under their programming, and it's Mountain Biking 101. Mountain Biking, 2 words, 101. And we do it as a free class. We mimic all the obstacles that you see in the trail, and we have them in one open field, so you'll get used to it, build confidence, and as you go through the trail, you're able to attack these things that you may not have hit before.
I really wish I would have taken that before I came out here today.
We can get you in there. We can get you in there.
All right.
I think it's pretty obvious from the interview how nervous I am because I've never mountain biked before, but the SpokeLife crew is great and got me up to speed before we hit the trail.
Hey.
So after a solid 2-minute skills course from the master himself, Don said, let's grab the bikes and hit the trail. And guess what? Right off the bat, we were shredding it, man. I mean, well, Don was shredding it. Even for an absolute beginner like me, riding out on the Oak Openings mountain bike trail was so much fun. And believe it or not, there really is a great balance between expert and beginner level obstacles, and there are plenty of options to choose from a short 3-mile ride to start out all the way up to riding the full 11-mile loop.
I think they're trying to kill me.
Anyone who loves to get their heart rate up and get their blood pumping, I can attest that this is the sport for you. Now, it probably helps that I had a pro teaching me how to do this, but I really felt like I got up to speed quickly and really is not as terrifying as it looks. Thanks, SpokeLife team. Can't wait to do it again.